Today, here on the MT and Me, we're gonna change the oil and check the electricity. Or are we gonna change the electricity and check the oil? Probably a little bit of both before everything is said and done. But either way, if it all works out, we're gonna take the key and see if we can turn the engine over in Pearl. Oh yeah. Hello again, my nomies. Good to have you back on the MT and Me. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A perfect day to get out here and do some work on Pearl. So that's exactly what I have in mind. We have a brand new oil filter, and we got a big old jug of motor oil. We are gonna pull the plug, drain what's in there, and put a fresh coating of oil inside Pearl's 360 engine. I'll bet you can tell from the look of frustration on my face that I've already run into a problem. Seriously, we've been out here about, 15 minutes working on this project. I was rehearsing for this shot. I was going to be sure the dipstick pulled out easily so that we could pull it out, check the oil and everything, and do it proper before we went into the oil change. So I grabbed the dipstick and I pull, and the whole bloomin' assembly comes out. This is the tube that attaches to the engine block that the dipstick goes down in. I was not anticipating this. So I gotta figure out how I can put this back on the motor before we can do anything. Like I always say, nothing is ever easy, is it? Well, referring once again to the service manual, I've got a very simple diagram here, right there. That shows you the motor, and it shows where the dipstick tube is, where it fastens in. I already knew that. I know where this thing came from. And but it doesn't say anything about how it's supposed to attach. To my knowledge, they just stuck down in the block. So I'm gonna go do a little YouTube research and see what I can find out. I'll get back to you. Oh, YouTube is such a wonderful thing. Not only am I here on YouTube talking to you now, but I've just finished watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I now know more about dipsticks and dipstick tubes than I ever thought I'd care to know. But one thing I do know is that this one is broken. This little flared part on the end, I was trying to figure out how it was going to go against that hole and attach to the engine block. It doesn't. This flare is simply a stop point on the tube. There's more tube that goes on and pokes down in the engine block, down into the oil pan, to guide the dipstick down so that you get an accurate oil reading. So that means this is broken off flush with where it goes into the engine. Now, as you might assume, that's a problem, because you can't just pull that rascal out of there. And the fact that it broke off means it more than likely is stuck there. Pearl has an old engine. She's been setting up a long time. That's a lot of rusting, a lot of corrosion, so I just imagine that the broken part of this tube is pretty firmly stuck in the block. Now, I learned several methods of getting that broken piece of tube out. The best one, and apparently the most successful one, is to take a bolt, a lag bolt, that will fit down into this tube, one size just enough that the threads will cut into the tube, get it in there securely, not this tube, but the part that's in the block, of course, and then figure out a way to pull upwards on it, whatever. Some people use what they call a pull hammer with it. Some used a piece of wire and a wooden block, and some actually put a bolt in there with a socket as a spacer, and they used another bolt to tighten down and pull it up like kind of like a wheel pull, you know, like a steering wheel pull or a bearing puller. Kind of like that would work, you know, where it pulls out evenly. So that's probably the method we're going to have to pursue. Now, that means, of course, I, one, have to buy a new a dipstick tube. Okay, no problem there. I think I can find one. But two, what I'm really worried about is getting the one out of the block. Not so much that I think I'll have problems getting it out. I'll have problems getting to it because it's not in the easiest of places. I don't know how well you can see it, but this is the hole right here. All right? That's where the piece of stem is that's still stuck in the engine block. All right, this is pipe coming off the water pump. This is the fuel pump. The alternator is right up here. The framing for it is all around. So I don't really know how I'm going to get to that spot without taking half the front of the engine off. But I guess we'll do what we have to do. So, I don't think I'm going to change oil this afternoon. I'm going to start looking for everything I need to fix the dipstick holder. It's always something. Stay tuned. Well, the next day is here, and we are preparing to do what we have to do, which is going to be take the alternator off to begin with and see where we stand after that. I've done a lot more research, watched many more videos, and decided that to get to that hole, the only way is to clear the pathway. Now that means getting the alternator out of the way and probably getting the fuel pump off as well. I don't really anticipate either one of these to be a terribly difficult job, but then again, I was going to just change the oil and roll on, and you see what happened to that plan. So I've decided it's best just not to anticipate anything. So we're going to start by seeing if we can remove Pearl's alternator. There are only two bolts that hold this rascal on. This one right here, which is actually the tensioning position for the alternator, the way you put tension back on it when you put a belt on. And this is the other one right here that actually does most of the actual weight holding. It's a long bolt that goes back into the engine block. So I think if I get those two out, and I may have to loosen this one down here on the tensioning arm. But after that, we have 3 wires that are connected on the back, and I think I'll just go ahead and get it off of there before I worry about taking those loose. Although, you know, it might be kind of smart to go ahead and take them loose while it's in place. Why don't we go to the other side and look at that? Okay, so as you can see, it's the back of the alternator. 3 connections. Red wire goes right here, green wire right here. This is the heavy ground wire, it goes right here. We got Phillips head screws, no problem there. And down here, I thought maybe we had actually found our 10mm socket of the day. But no, it's an 11mm socket. Of course it is. Anyway, let's get these wires off. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Oh, it's a brush. It's one of the brushes that can, okay, all right, okay. I was worried there for a moment. I was tearing something up, but no. We'll just have to put it back the way it was. I'm now assuming this is probably going to be the same way. Yeah, see, it's a brush too. All right, okay. So that's got those two taken care of. Well, this will give me a chance to be sure the brushes are in good shape as well. Now, let's get this ground wire off. Okay, the alternator is disconnected electrically. Now we just have to remove it mechanically. Okay. Got the alternator off. And what fell? Okay. A couple of spacer sleeves that go between the alternator and the block and the alternator in the front. All right. I'm not so sure this is any better. Well, it is better, but it's probably not good enough. Now, if you can see, this is the hole. You can see that little spot of blue on the block. I'll get that cleaned up around it a little more. You can actually see the silver rim reflecting in the light of the tube that's broken off down inside that hole. That's the problem spot. Now, I think to get any access to it, the fuel pump is going to have to come off. And I also need to take off this tensioner arm too. That's no problem. Fuel pump, I'm not so sure. We'll find out though. Well, I think I can just let it hang rather than take it completely off. That'll work. Okay, so we're going to focus on getting the fuel pump out now. Pair of pliers to loosen the fuel line here. This is a 1/2-inch nut that's holding the feed line to the carburetor in, and then we have 2 14mm bolts that are holding it on to the block. So let's see if this goes as smoothly as it seems like it should. Well, there's actually some gas in this line. I really wasn't expecting that. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get that rubber hose off of the feed line until I get everything else disconnected. Well, let's take this off, see if there's gas in there. Just a little bit. Tell you what, the smell of old gasoline, not a pleasant thing. Yeah. Okay, let's see if we can get in here. Get this bolt out. There's one. Now, simple matter of getting to the one that I can't see and getting it out. That's always fun. And there's the other one. Now, if we can get that rubber tube off, it'll all come out. Can't quite pull it far enough with the tube attached, so let's get that off of there. Sure. Like I said, let's get it off of there. Go ahead. Ask me if I'm having fun. Finally! Jeez. I really didn't think getting the hoses off was going to be the hardest part, but that's exactly how it was. It's always the things you don't anticipate. But anyway, the fuel pump is off, the alternator is off, and I think if I can ever keep this fuel line out of the way, we'll be able to get to our problem hole. As you can see, we have a much clearer access to it now. And once again, you can see that rim around it that shows where the actual tube broke off. Now, the next step will be to find a lag bolt or a big screw, something with some teeth on it that we can put down in here, just an inch or so, screw it in place, and then hopefully pull this little baby out, because then we can get the hole all cleaned up and get it all ready for a brand new dipstick tube. And heck, we'll even buy a new dipstick for it. Why not? So, that's where we stand right here right now, let's go see what kind of hardware we can find to finish this job. Oh, and yeah, I need to order a dipstick tube. Don't let me forget that, okay? All right, after a very quick, and I do mean quick, check of all the shops and storage facilities, I really haven't turned up anything that will work as far as screwing into the end of this tube to pull it out. I thought I had something here. I'm not even sure what this is. I think it's an old rusty masonry bit that's been broken. And I thought that broken end would go in, but it will not. It won't quite. It's just a little bit too big, and it's not going to lock into place. And I need something that'll go in there and actually thread into the copper on the inside so that I can get a good firm pull on it. I tried to measure this. It is on the inside just a little bit under 3/8, 5/8. 3/8, a little bit under 3/8. Trying to remember here, this was an hour ago. But a quarter-inch drill bit goes right in there. It's too big, and a 3/8 bit is too big. So somewhere right in between. Just gonna have to keep checking and keep experimenting until we find something. Okay, and that's what we'll keep looking for until we get just the right thing to put in there, and then we'll worry about how we're going to yank it out. I hope it doesn't offer too much resistance. But we did accomplish a lot today because in the process of trying to get to the hole, we got Pearl's alternator off, so we can give it a good cleaning and once over, and maybe even take it to a shop to have it checked out and just be sure everything's okay there, so we'll know if we need to replace the alternator or not. And same thing with her fuel pump. Now, you know, we've got the electric fuel pump that we hunted down and determined that that works too. And quite frankly, I'm still not certain at this point whether we're going to end up using the electric pump or this pump or both. But we're going to check this one out to be sure it's okay nonetheless, and just be sure. It had gas in it, which tells me that whenever Pearl was parked 16, 17 years ago, well, this was probably part of the gas system. So, I don't know. That mystery continues, and we'll work on it when the time comes, okay? But that time is not now. We have gotten a lot done today, but we didn't do what I promised you, and I feel sorry about that. I have to admit that I actually got pretty despondent a couple of days this week because of finding this latest problem, and it just put the screeching brakes on everything I had planned. You know, going to change the oil and get that done, and going to check out that electrical system one more time, and then we're going to turn the key and see if it had bumped the engine over. I had really gotten myself worked up and ready to do that, and I kind of figure you were looking forward to it also, and it ain't happening. As soon as I went to pull that dipstick and the whole assembly came off, well, there went those plans. Oh, they're still on the books, but we're not going to be doing it this week or probably even next week because we got to fix the dipstick first. Okay. So I'm sorry. I apologize I had big plans, and the greatest plans of mice and men just go right down the tube sometime, and that's exactly what happened here. So please bear with me. We'll get this fixed, and we will still turn over the engine in Pearl if she's ready to do so. Cross those fingers, and again, I really apologize. I'm feeling a little better now. I really got down on myself about this a couple of days ago, and I had to muddle through. And doing this, getting the alternator and the pump off, and actually making some more progress towards solving the problem has really helped me a lot. And you staying with me through it is helping a lot too. Please leave your comments. If you have comments or suggestions, chances are I can see them, you know, immediately after you watch this video before I actually go further, and especially if you've got some suggestions on taking that what's left of the dipstick tube out. If you have done that, then by all means comment. Let me know your experience, or let me know your ideas, and I would deeply appreciate the help and support, okay? In the meantime, that's going to be it for this week. I'm going to wrap things up here. If you are not a subscriber to the MT and Me, please do so. Just click that subscribe. It's an easy thing. We want to get those subscribe numbers up. We're almost to 150. I want to keep it climbing, okay? So help me out there, all right? If you'd like to help out by buying me a coffee, there's a link below to do that. Yes, you too can help to buy a brand new dipstick and tube for Pearl. See? You can actually contribute if you want to. If not, that's okay too. And you also find a link to the MT and Me website where there's more about Pearl and the Mobile Traveler Company and the history of it. Plus a link to our Facebook page as well, so you can follow us there. I'd love to have you along. Thank you for joining us each and every Sunday here on the MT and Me. Next week, hey, I maybe learned my lesson. I'm not making any promises about what we're going to do next week. We're going to try to replace the dipstick. If I can get a dipstick in time, a new tube and dipstick, I've got to order one. I'll do that tonight, I promise, if I can find just the right one. And then we've got to, before we can put it in, pull the old one out. So right now, that's the only thing that I'm guaranteeing we're going to work on in the next video. If that goes well, maybe we'll get further. You're going to have to tune in and find out for yourself, okay? You do that, I'll be here, you be here, we'll get together and see what happens. Till next time around, thank you, my nomies, for watching and for your support. I love you and appreciate you. I'm Russ, and we will talk later. Got to be something that'll fit in that end. And I'm gonna find it.